Aloha, welcome back for another episode of the Gun Talk. This week we're diving into iconic movies. Before we get into that, we are going to go see our first ad of the podcast. If you guys like Dubby and like the drink where you guys don't have to have a big huge crash, it's a good way to go. All right. I know some of you guys might hate what I'm going to say, but let's forget superheroes with capes. True legends of cinema often wears holsters. We're going to rip apart the silver screen and revealing how legendary movies, Firearms, from Bond's Walter PPK to Ripley's beastly pulse rifle, are more than just plot devices for all you guys. So let's get ready to explore the real-world inspiration, intricate designs, and the culture that impacts their legendary status. So let's go far beyond a simple prop, okay? How are you guys going today, Big Haas and Cannon?
Going good.
I'm doing good. I hope everyone's doing good as well.
Oh, yeah, I'm doing great. I'm going to love this episode this week. So we're going to go the weapons as a character beyond a prop, okay? So how do these movies get certain firearms become with a character and their journey? So we got to look at the symbolic meaning. So a gun choice can mirror a character's traits in movies. So like a classic revolver, for example, the Clint Eastwood movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. As you guys see here, we have the Colt 851 Navy revolver, one of Clint Eastwood's iconic characters' firearm. And what other movies we might see this in, Bika or Cannon?
I mean, I believe he uses it in 3 different movies that I know of because there's 3 different movies in the series. So, and it's 3 of his most iconic movies.
And you
namely
you mainly see him with this Navy revolver.
Yeah. And I mean, going on my topic, it's definitely cemented its place in history. It's just by being in Good, the Bad, the Ugly. But, I mean, he uses it in more than one movie. So, clearly it's a favorite of his, I'm assuming.
I can actually tell you a list of movies that this gun has been in, but it's a pretty long list.
Oh, yeah, because not only the Navy revolver was a pretty popular firearm for filmmaking, but you also have like the Colt Army that used in most movies as well, too. So
it was also used in some games. The Metal Gear Solid series, one of its characters was known famously for using Colt action armies and doing all kinds of tricks with them. Revolver Ocelot.
Oh yeah, and that's what the symbolic meaning behind these firearm choices is that, you see our favorite movie character or favorite TV show character using these firearms over and over again, and it's like that's what makes the character, in my perspective. Right. And then after symbolic meaning, then we have to go into the narrative tension. Have you guys seen those movies where you see a whole bunch of gunfire but no reloading?
Yeah.
And you're wondering, like, that's not realistic,
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And so this is where we get the narrative tension of limited ammo, where it creates the suspense of how our character is going to get out of this situation, forcing them to make tactical choices, and showing how they're either vulnerable in some places or resourceful. And I don't know about you guys, I think the best movie to actually show that is the John Wick series.
Yeah,
absolutely.
In all three movies, you see John Wick, Keanu Reeves, reload and come up with, like, either out of ammunition and have to figure out a way to get out of these certain situations.
In which case he uses a pencil.
And so this right here shows great narrative tension. I know, Big Hoss, before we went live, you're saying about how Keanu Reeves created something that now law enforcement are using.
Yes, it is the simple magazine flip. Basically, as soon as he presses the button, he swings the gun to the side, which causes the weight of the magazine to pull itself out, and then you're able to reload. And it's a 3-second difference usually for most firearms, depending on the weight of the magazine. But that's 3 seconds that can be made up for in action. You may not think it's a lot, but whenever you're in a gun battle, it is a lot of time.
Yeah, seconds count and everything. And you know what? I gotta say, one of the tactics I like that Keanu Reeves inputted into the movie is each time he gets a new firearm, he checks the chamber and then starts going again. And that's very tactical and resourceful because he's making sure there's a round in the chamber before he continues going.
Yeah, even whenever he, just puts in a magazine and racks the slide, he still double checks the chamber to make sure that the round actually went in before he goes out, because sometimes that first round may not load into a chamber if you're not careful.
Oh yeah, because they're going to be not seated properly, so that the slide didn't pick up that round and feed it into the chamber, and so and that makes it like how he uses that tactic helps greatly.
Yeah,
and so now we went from narrative tension. Now we got to create a visual storytelling for all the viewers, especially like even for us. I'm a major movie buff,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so when I think of visual storytelling, it's like, how is the weapon being handled? Where's the wear and tear, and are they using a specific model of firearm? And so when I think of visual storytelling, I think of Bad Boys 3, the scene where Reggie takes down 15 people.
Yeah.
And
that's a good one.
Oh yeah, and that shows great firearm handling in the midst of all that gunfire, all those people coming in. You see him very tactical, holding that like the rifles really sturdy, and panning his corners and making sure he's checking everywhere if there's someone coming.
And it shows. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was saying it shows versatility as well, because he's actually picking up enemies' weapons that are each one is different, but he's still using them like he's known how to use them.
Oh yeah, it's like when you first see him going to get a firearm, it's a Glock 17. I think maybe a 15-round mag in it.
Yeah.
And so coming out, popping up one guy, taking a gun from another, shooting him, fighting with another one, firearms upside down, and reloads the firearm while it's upside down, holding the guy against the wall.
Yeah. It shows a person who knows how to handle themselves in any situation.
And man, when I saw that scene, I was like, holy shit, is that really Reggie, the skinny little boy from Bad Boys 1 and 2? That's really him doing all that.
That kind of reminds me of how Keanu Reeves did all of his stuff in John Wick. Like when you see him doing all the guns and stuff like that, that's him doing that.
Oh yeah, and that's like in John Wick, as you said, different firearms being used. That shows a visual story that how versatile John Wick is. Bad Boys 3, it shows how versatile Reggie is. There's so much right there going on.
Yeah.
And
it's definitely a situation that keeps you on the edge of your seat because they are really just going back to back to back, and it's not letting you stop and think. It's like it's pulling you into the scene.
Oh yeah, because I remember the first time watching it, I was on the edge of my seat saying, what's going to happen next? Is he going to get shot? And it was just, to me, real crazy on that Bad Boys 3 scene. But now we go from visual storytelling all the way to the design philosophy. Some of these movies, we see different types of firearms being used, creative ways being used. So when we look at the design philosophy, we're exploring how the weapons are looking in forms of how that fits the character's personality in TV show or film. So my best example for this part is I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Alien. That was a really good movie. What do you guys think?
My favorite in the Alien series.
Yeah, Aliens is hands down the best Alien movie there is.
Oh yeah, and so with that brings up to the part where we have the main character Ripley with her M40 pulse rifle right there, and that what made her character look like a badass against these creatures.
Yeah, I mean, it's what she had on hand, and it's not something that's overly complicated like the smart gun.
And like in this photo, you see her in the elevator getting ready to go to battle with these creatures.
Yeah. And all she did was duct tape together a flamethrower and a assault rifle, and she was going to take on all that came in her way, and
including the Queen.
Yeah.
I think my favorite part of that movie is when Ripley is in that little crane type suit and just knocking around the Queen around with it.
Yeah. That loader that was meant to load the boxes into the crates and stuff.
Oh yeah. I thought that was crazy right there,
Yeah.
So come on. So, but moving from the design philosophy, well, we need to get the audience attention, like how John Wick, Bad Boys 3, and all that catches the audience attention. Another one where, besides unforgettable cinematic parts or the emotion recondance of these films, took another example of looking in a different way is recognizing the weapons. You guys know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So when I look at certain types of weapons, the ones I know really well, I know who it is holding that weapon. Like if we look at Halo, the TV shows, the movies, when we see that assault rifle right there that Master Chief is holding, we know that's Master Chief and something is going down.
Yeah.
It could be him fighting off a whole bunch of flying bugs or different covenants, or we have the elites. When we see them with the energy swords, we know that they're the covenant and they're the elites that are coming to try to cause trouble.
Right.
So, and I know when we know with those weapons, we know who they are, and that's what grabs my attention. I don't know about what grabs your guys' attention in movies.
I mean, yes, I fully agree that the weapon, usually if you see the weapon first, you can kind of put together maybe who the person carrying it is, because usually it will narrow down what character it is.
What about you, Kenan? What gets your attention in movies or TV shows?
Besides like the main characters, that's usually like what they're using, like some sort of signature weapon most of the times, or like something that media has deemed signature to the series, like in a horror movie, like a crowbar or something like that. Like most horror movies, you see the protagonist picking up like a crowbar to fight off the enemy or whatever. Or you see like a Jason movie, Jason's going to have a machete or something like that, some kind of bladed weapon. Or, John Wick's going to be having his pistols and his assault rifles and stuff like that, but they're going to be signature to his style. They're usually slick, streamlined pistols that are really high-end, top-tier pistols, ones that we'll never be able to afford.
The Kimber 1911, his style pistol, I think it's like going for a similar design about $2,000.
And then there's the Pit Viper he uses in the last film, or the last couple films, which are competition made style of firearms that go for like $3,000 a pop.
Yeah. So, I gotta say, when I see movies, especially action ones, I look at the firearm handling. That grabs my attention and everything, and that's, to me, really exciting. But let's take a look at our second sponsor of this week, and we'll get back with you guys. All right, now that we're back, we just covered about the weapons as a character beyond the prop and gave a little detail on that. So I'm going to pass it on to Big Hoss for his next topic of diving into this episode.
Yes, I'm going to be kind of breaking down what real life guns went into these signature weapons that, futuristic weapons that they had to modify to look futuristic, but they still use regular guns because that's how they got them to work. For example, Ripley's assault rifle, it's actually a M1A1 Thompson with a Ithaca pump action and underbarrel. Those are two, like very different guns that they managed to make seem like a flawless, streamlined design that has been made to be this like ultimate weapon.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that Ripley's gun was like 3 in 1. I thought it was just the rifle and the flamethrower.
No, the assault rifle itself without the flamethrower has what they call a 30 millimeter grenade launcher, pump action 30 millimeter grenade launcher. It's actually a Ithaca 12 gauge with SPOS 12 furniture on it.
Oh, wow.
Which would explain the pump action on it, the size of it, and the look of it.
Oh, yeah, because I'm going to pull the picture back up. But looking at it, you can't. I know the picture is really grainy, but if we had a clearer picture, it like blends in as one, not showing multiple ones.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like this that it makes it look futuristic, but they still used base guns. Another example from Aliens is the smart gun. This one is actually a lesser known gun to most people, but to history buffs, they'll know it. It's the MG42 they used for the smart gun.
Huh. That's very interesting. I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm. The smart gun is actually based as a MG42. They took off the regular handle, put on a separate grip that would act as the handle and pull the trigger grouping.
Yeah, I didn't realize. Because that almost looks like those mounted deterrent guns you see on vehicles.
Yeah. It's actually an MG42, which is not really a average gun you would actually see, but it's what they had and what they thought looked cool at the time.
Oh yeah, it's Hollywood. They gotta think of something out of the box and to make people think, "Oh, this is a cool gun. I want it."
Exactly.
That's kind of what they did with Star Wars. They used all World War II guns as weapons.
That's actually a good one to go off of. Is the main blasters of the stormtroopers were actually Lewis guns.
I thought those looked familiar, but painted white or black.
They took Lewis guns and just simply added wiring and stuff because they already look futuristic. All they did was they took off their drum magazines at the top.
And like the pistol blasters were just broom handles, weren't they?
Han Solo's blaster was a broom handle Mauser.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But the rest of them were actually mostly just made by were like custom made, not based off of Firearms. That was where the, like if your average stormtrooper had a pistol, it was a actual like model, not a firearm.
Yeah, like the I think it was the A280 blaster. It represents a AR-15.
Yeah.
So
they took what looked futuristic at the time and modified it a little bit to make it even look more futuristic.
Oh yeah. So what else you got for us here?
Another example would be like from Starship Troopers. Their bullpup futuristic looking rifle was based around a Ruger Mini 14. And you can actually kind of see the and the only part that you still see it as the Ruger Mini 14 is a small slide that's in the back.
Yeah, the shell ejection and
The ejection port of the.
Yeah.
I thought that looked like the bullpup, because where the
Yeah, what they did was they actually custom made a clamshell that had a they took off the stock from a Ruger Mini 14, put it inside of this clamshell that had a specially made trigger pull, like trigger connection rod, so it could still fire with being a bullpup.
Going by that, following that deal, if we look at the Halo guns, the assault rifle is pretty much the FM 200, I believe.
Yeah.
In a clamshell, pretty much, or 2000, the FNF 2000, just bunch of stuff put up top around it and everything.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that gun from Splinter Cell. That was his signature rifle up until the final game that they made.
Anything else on your topic, because?
Not really. I think we can move on with the show, because those are like the most iconic weapons that Hollywood just made that took already existing guns to make them work.
So following with that, now we're going to move over to culture, impact, and beyond the screen of merchandising and fandom. I think all of us can say most of the fandom, like, with Deadpool, Star Wars, and stuff like that, are getting implemented into video games now.
Yes.
I think it's Fortnite that was doing some of that. with Deadpool, Scooby-Doo, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have Deadpool as a skin on Fortnite.
Yep. And they do every character. I mean, not every character, but they were doing Resident Evil characters, a couple of them. They were doing John Wick. I have John Wick on there. So they do iconic,
And here's a good question: like with those skins, do you get those iconic firearms with those skins?
No. They do give you some iconic weapons that he uses, like the katana that he used in John Wick 2, I think it was.
Yeah.
They
do give you the weapons, but they're either ornamental or if it's a melee weapon, they turn it into a pickaxe.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I don't play Fortnite very much. I only played it a few times with my son because he kind of made me.
They do some of the signature stuff. Like you can buy it where you know how John Wick takes out his suit vest and pats it and all the bullets fall out of it.
Yeah.
That's one of the moves you can buy to make him do as like a celebratory thing. They have stuff like that.
Because I don't know about like any other games that's doing it, but I know, even manufacturers of Nerf or Hasbro are making these replicas of these firearms that are so popular in these movies.
Yeah.
And, especially with the Star Wars, with these little blasters to replicate from Star Wars and everything. And so all this, like expanding to life of these characters and everything are pretty amazing.
Yeah. And that's the big money makers. Even adults. You can't tell me if you saw the Pit Viper as a Nerf gun or a airsoft gun. You would want that.
Yeah, I'll buy it. I'll buy it.
Or even off of Temu or similar sites, they have full metal recreations of guns that the slide and trigger work on them, and the slide comes out, or the magazine comes out of them.
Yeah, I've seen those, especially on Amazon, like these woodworking ones that fits a little rubber bands, and they're like these cycle actions and everything. It's so amazing how it's done.
Yeah, but they're like these little mini one, probably 12th version of a real gun. And I got one. It's a Beretta 92 FS, and the slide comes back. You can lock the slide and unlock it.
Disassemble it like a real.
Yeah, you can disassemble it like a real gun.
Field strip it. Wow, that's incredible.
It makes a great fidget toy.
Yeah. But it's just great of how technology has come up these days of doing all of this. So when we're looking at all this, now we're looking at influence on designs from real world weapons to what civilian, like military, to what civilians can use. And from these movies, it kind of gives us a little bit of an idea.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you guys noticed with the John Wick's Pit Viper, it is like there's quite a bit porting holes on that slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys know this, but for the viewers out there, what the porting does is pretty much when you fire, the gases come out from the top and it levels the firearm a little bit better. So not much of a recoil comes out when you're shooting it.
It can also decrease weight from the slide to decrease overall, like the way the pit fiber was made. The long porting on the slide is meant to take away weight from the slide so that it's quicker draw and maneuverability.
Yeah, but with all the portings and make it lighter, we also have to worry about whether or not the firearm's going to function properly.
Right.
That's the biggest thing when we're doing all that. But
because you want equal weight in your gun.
Oh yeah, and I haven't ported any of my firearms yet, but I was planning on doing that with my PSA dagger, but haven't figured out how I'm going to do it with it still working correctly.
Yeah.
But most of these military weapons that we see and our civilian firearms are very similar, but the only difference is, let's say, the ARs. In Hollywood films, real life, you have the M4 or M4A1, one of M16s like that are military, and they're full autos and 3 burst fire and single shot. Civilian is only a single shot. That legal, okay?
Right.
But that's how Hollywood portrays most people with firearms is not the same way it's in real life. So and that's where we got to shape perspectives from the movies into real life. The subtle influence in the public of firearms, positive, negative things. We see in these movies John Wick going and killing a whole bunch of people, all because 1, they killed his dog, 2, they stole his Mustang.
Which he was more interested in what was in the Mustang than the actual car itself.
Yeah.
Because it showed in the second movie that all he was after was the last picture of his wife he had.
And then the second one also, they blew up his house, and that caused a whole other thing there.
Yeah. And so you don't see real life people going around and doing what John Wick did in those films.
Right.
So we got to be realistic when we come with these films.
Right.
What other is a good movie to portray?
The Punisher.
The Punisher, good one. I think we're going to that up cannons. But what are you going to say?
I was going to say that's another case of vigilanteism, of was done wrong, and then they go out and they take their revenge. But in real life, you can't really do that without repercussions.
Yeah. So when we are shaping our perspectives from movie to real life, we need to realize, okay, what is realistic? And if we decide to do these stupid stunts, I got to say, what are there going to be the repercussions of it? If we, a good prime example is if you look at GTA, you have a lot of people from seeing what they're doing in that video game, including minors, thinking that's cool and go do it in real life.
Yeah, and in society, you can't do that stuff. That's insane. And because in that game, you're supposed to be a criminal. They're not supposed to be a law-abiding citizen working within a society.
But there's a different perspective. That's a video game. It's not real. But if you do it in real life, you don't get a second life like you do in the game.
No.
So,
yeah.
Or if you do some of the stuff that are in like John Wick and stuff like that, there's no rewind button after you shoot a person. There's no rewind button to go back. So whether you get in serious trouble with the wrong people or the police come get you, you can't rewind and just say, "Oh, well, I saw it in a movie." You're done.
Yeah. You only got one life. There's no reset button.
Yeah, and know that if you do this, you're giving your life away. So if you die, that's the biggest thing is prepare to die if you do these things.
Oh yeah, and these movies, these video games are great. They're fun, they're entertaining, but they're just movies. They're fake characters going through some troubles. It could be realistic, it could be pretend, but it's a movie. So we're gonna watch our next ad. It's a class I'm hosting tomorrow. People, if you're in the Denver area and still need your concealed handgun permit, please come and sign up, or comment down below. Be able to help you out to get your Colorado handgun permit. What is that?
Concealed Carry and Home Defense Fundamentals. Take a class where you will get the foundation needed to obtain your CCW permit. Get the confidence you need to act as your family's first line of defense. Learn about home security, marksmanship fundamentals, firearms basics, conflict avoidance, situational awareness, physiology of violent encounters, the legal aspect of using deadly force, and the aftermath of a home defense incident. Register for your Concealed Carry and Home Defense Fundamentals class today.
All right, we're back, and just to recap over what we've all gone through, we talked about the weapons of as a character beyond the prop. We also had big hot topics about futuristic firearms that Hollywood made as well, and also the culture impact from these films, from merchandising and fandom and all that. So I'm going to pass the torch over to Kenan for his topic of this deep dive into Hollywood films.
Thank you. I'm going to be talking about like the legacy of guns and how they made it into like the Hall of Fame, or how we know them today. And there's so many guns in this world that I could have picked, but I picked these because they were special to me. And I only had so much time. I could talk about guns forever, and guns in movies forever, but these are the ones I picked. So I'm going to start off with Bond's PPK. That's Sean Connery with the classic PPK. Bond used this gun in 30 years of filming, up until it was replaced by the P99 and Pierce Brosnan. This gun was made a staple in all of his films. He used it. He didn't really use any other guns because look how sleek and suave it is. That's Bond. Bond is the gentleman spy, the slick, smart, savvy guy. And it just oozes from like Sean Connery and Roger Moore. They know what they're doing, and this gun fits them very well. and through that 30 years of it being showed through all those films, it's made its way into being an icon of everyone seeing this pistol and going, that's Bond's gun, you know. That's not just like, oh, that's just I don't know that gun. Everyone knows that's Bond's gun. So that's like my first one that I'm gonna do. You know, that one made its way into the Hall of Fame respectfully, and today many people own that gun, as well as you know, it made companies copy that gun. I know Sig Sauer has a PPK knockoff. I don't know what the model is, but it looks almost exactly like the PPK. I know this because my grandfather had one. It was a more affordable version of the PPK that you could have. It was just from Sig Sauer, because the Walther ones were very expensive. So it changed the building of the 380s completely in the time of like the 60s and 70s, 80s, you know.
It's the SIG P232.
Yeah. My grandfather had that gun. It's almost indistinguishable from a PPK. You know, but it was like the one for like the working man. It wasn't like the PPK where you had to order it, and you know, it was one you could find in your local stores and stuff like that. My next one I'm going to talk about is the classic, whether you're looking at comic books or the movies, Deadpool's Desert Eagles. This character is known for his carnage and wacky antics and his twin katanas, but what else he's mostly known for is his twin Desert Eagles. And I mean, if you've been born within the past 20 years, you've seen the movies and know his guns. If you've been born within the past 30 to 40 years, you've read the comic books and know that his guns are Desert Eagles. And this character is notorious for them. I mean, he uses other guns and stuff like that too, but he's mainly seen with these right here.
I remember you freaked out about gold-plated Desert Eagles.
Yeah,
the gold-plated pistoleros.
Yeah, in his newest movie, he uses the gold-plated Desert Eagles, but mostly it's silver trimmed Desert Eagles. You know, so that made its way from comics to big screen into, you know, everyone knows that Deadpool uses Desert Eagles. We'll go to our next one. The Punisher's 1911s. Now, the Punisher is known for using any weapon you can think of, but when you think of him, you think of, you know, or you should, whether it's the comic books or the movies or the TV series, he mostly uses the M1911 A1s, or, you know, the Kimber M1911 the Kimber line of the M1911s, whatever it is, it's the M1911s, because in the comic book series, when he first started doing what he was doing in the 80s after his family got murdered by the mafia, he was using the Colt 1911 he had gotten from the military from Vietnam, because he was a soldier in Vietnam. And that was one of his primary weapons. While he used also the M16 and the Beretta. These were his go-to pistols.
Which makes sense because
go ahead.
I was saying it makes sense because they're a time-tested design that is known to be reliable, powerful, and able to get the job done.
Right. It wasn't until the 90s that these were replaced as main issued sidearms to be the Berettas, the Beretta M92s, where these were optional or officers' guns, to where now they are not really used at all unless you buy them unless you buy them as a customer, or they're mostly for civilian use now because of the magazine size and the caliber. They're mostly, if you're looking for stopping power, they'll give you like a Desert Eagle. If you're looking for bullets, they're going to give you a Beretta M92. So this character was done in a time where this was the handgun of the military, and most people who left the military or were looking for guns bought these guns.
And to chime in here, no, they're still used in the military of this day. It just depends on certain people who want to use them.
Yeah, you have to actually tell them, hey, I don't want the Beretta 92. I want a 1911.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I know it was like that for a while, but I thought they had done away with them. But okay, so I was wrong. So they're still in use. You have to specifically ask for them.
Yeah, I think
which is what I would do.
They kind of phased them out in the 80s after World War II, really, when they started phasing out the 1911 to the Beretta 92F for that. And it wasn't until recently when they had a choice to use either the 1911 or the Beretta. But I know there's quite a few officers that still use the 1911 because it's more reliable. It does not jam, and even though it only carries 8 rounds, that could all they need to use to get themselves out of a jam quickly.
Right.
Yeah, because the 45.
I know if I was in the military, I would have chosen the Beretta or the Colt M1911.
Yeah. That's because the 45 ACP is known for its stopping power. It doesn't take 1 or 2 shots to stop a person. You just need that one shot.
Oh yeah.
And they will stop in their tracks, and that's enough time for either a quick second shot to kill them or enough time for you to run away and get out the way.
Oh yeah.
So let me get started on my next gun. This is another classic that unless you've been living under a rock or you've been born within the past 20 years or so, you know this gun, regardless of who you are. From its short time in the film, the time that it's in the film is so iconic. It's Scarface's M16 M203.
Say hello to my little friend.
Exactly. Al Pacino made this gun just so iconic because that's what you think of when you think of this movie. That's the part you think of, say hello to my little friend. That he made that line so iconic before he started lighting up his mansion with this gun. He fought off so many people with this gun that it wasn't even realistic because he didn't really reload. I don't remember him ever reloading the gun.
Yeah, those are the kind of movie that has unlimited ammo.
Yeah, he was shooting grenades and shooting bullets and just I mean, I think he reloaded grenades, but I don't think he ever reloaded bullets. But I think he only shot like one grenade. But anyway, if you've seen this movie, you know what an M16 M203 is, because he only used this gun once in the movie, but it was so impactful that you're like, I know what that is. You know what I'm saying? And it's been a staple in the American military since the 60s, since Vietnam. It wasn't popular at first, but once they got the kinks worked out on it, it was a very reliable gun. It's still used today.
Highly modified, but they're still
Highly modified. It's not that version, but it's still going today. But he put that gun on the list in the halls of fame by just say hello to my little friend. It was such an iconic line that you automatically know what gun he's talking about.
Oh yeah, that was my favorite scene in Scarface. Seeing him, everybody running his mouth, he's getting mad, and then he goes, "Say hello to my little friend," and just started pointing, spraying.
Yeah,
everywhere.
And it's like I said, it's such an iconic scene that it's one of the most remembered scenes of all time. I think, if not from that movie, everyone knows that movie for that one scene.
I mean, it's memed nowadays.
Yeah. And that's 30 years after the movie was made, So our next gun, from Resident Evil, the Stars Beretta M92F. This gun just kind of made Berettas from going like, that's the action hero's gun, to being, well, hey, this can be in horror too, In the game, they were specially made to be for each individual member of the Stars team. So they were custom made. But they all looked like Berettas. You knew they were Berettas. But
I can look at the design and say that's a Beretta 92F.
Exactly. But in the internals were each customly made. But in the Resident Evil series, this is the iconic starting gun. You started off with, for the longest time, you started off with a Beretta M92F, at least for the first one, and I think the fifth one. That's what you started off with. And the first game was so popular that, I mean, if you mention Resident Evil, the original game, people are going to think of this gun because it was so used. And what's your favorite gun from it? They're going to either say like the rocket launcher or that, but they would probably say the pistol, because they went through the game so much with this pistol.
And they gave it such an impactful name that made it iconic. The Samurai's Edge.
Exactly. And they mention it throughout the series, and they brought it back in 7 and 8 with a large compensator on it and made it like an ultimate weapon almost, where it takes like, at first, if you're in the easier levels, it takes like one shot to kill something. If you're in the harder difficulties, it takes like 2 to 3 shots to kill something. But it's a staple of the series, I believe, in my opinion, as a rabid Resident Evil fan. Just, that's the best way to describe it. I love Resident Evil. They have other guns in that series that they changed guns up so much, but this one was one that they actually came back to. I mean, they have the shotgun, which is throughout the series that's just a shotgun. There's nothing special about the shotgun. It's just a shotgun. But this actual gun is so special that they customized it and everything like that. Actually had the engraving on the side of it, and they actually had the person that didn't say just, oh, Stars RPD pistol. It actually said Chris's Stars RPD pistol. So they were actually named for the people who owned them. And you see them in the movies also, not the Stars pistols, but they used the Beretta 92F in the movies. I think in the animated movie, the CGI animated movies, you do see the Stars pistol being used by Chris and Jill.
Mostly Jill, because she was the only one who
Jill.
kept her Beretta 92 from her Samurai Edge from the original video games.
Right. But I think the other people used the Beretta M92F. The gun itself is just a very famous gun because it's so used in so many facets of, from everyday life to police to military. It's a gun that you could have a blacked out outline of it and go, oh, that's a Beretta M92F, and it's been made famous from Bruce Willis having the M92F and the Die Hard movies, to this from the Resident Evil series, to you can almost name a movie and it probably has a Beretta M92F in it.
One of my favorite animes, Black Lagoon, the main character uses dual custom-made Beretta 92FSs.
Yeah, so that's my list. There were some that just came into my head as iconic guns that deserve some notable mention. I'm sure everybody is going to come back at me and say this and this and this and that, but these meant something to me. So, I could talk all day about any gun and how it, fits into movies or anything like that, or video games. I could talk all day about it, but we don't have all day. So,
yeah, I think all three of us could do that all day long. So,
yeah.
So just a little recap, everybody, that we went over quite a bit of stuff today, all the way from the how firearms are more than a prop. They're more kind of like a character in a movie for our main characters, or even side characters. The real world echoes and fictional innovation of these films with these weapons, cultural impacts, and the legacy that these firearms leave in these movies. That you guys know, like this is more than just a tool. They're reinforcing the ideas that firearms are not just instruments of violence, but they're symbols, powerful symbols, to contribute to these enduring legacy films like Scarface, soon to be John Wick. So when we look at these films, let's think of, they represent for something. Our Second Amendment, our right to bear arms, right to feel protective. So I hope you guys learned quite a bit from here and realizing from real to fiction and everything. I know I have, especially hearing both from Kenyon and Big Haas on their part of the topics of this podcast.
Yeah. And movies and games are made to be entertained and not copied,
Oh, yeah. Any final words, Big Haas?
Just a reminder to reinforce Kanan is like, if you do decide to try and reenact video games and movies, be prepared to throw your life away. So it's just better you leave it in the halls of movies and video games.
Oh, yes. So we're going to wrap up today's episode. I know we went a little bit over, but everybody, please stay safe, be protective, and remember, our Second Amendment rights are our right. Aloha. See you guys next week on the Gun Talk.